la 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 la. And hello, welcome to Mental Health Mondays Live. It's your source for positive, realistically positive, not lobotomized positive, but realistically positive mental health discussions and levity to start your week off with a smile, maybe some good advice or some good-hearted advice. I don't know about if the advice itself is going to be good, but it comes from a positive source. And with me is Mr. Cheerful, Mr. Friendly himself, Mr. Mindful Legacy himself, Matthew Jacobs. Matthew, how are you doing?
I am cheerful and positive today, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. That's awesome. And, and again, just oozing positivity on both sides of this discussion today. And we've got a lot of positive stuff to get to. Again, the purpose of Mental Health Mondays Live is to promote positivity and kind of counterbalance a lot of the negativity in the world, especially today. A lot of negative stuff in the, specifically in the news. We have fortunate American soldier, American airman that decided to set himself on fire. There's a lot of negative stuff, so we're going to try to balance that out with some positive stuff that I don't feel like the mainstream media or a lot of folks really like to share. So we can get that going, as well as have some discussions on some topics that are important to mental health. And we've got some new DMs and emails. Thank you so much for getting those in. We'll be offering our not quite certified advice, but more than average advice on those topics. But first off, I'll let you decide here. We've got a couple some good news topics here. The first thing I want to talk about, I got to ask you a question, Matthew. Matthew, are you a hugger?
Depends on the person, but
Depends on the
definitely.
person. But are you, if somebody that you cared about hugged you, would you feel awkward or would you actually be open to that? Would that make you feel well?
I'm very open to that. I feel very welcomed by somebody who I actually care about hugging me.
And do you tend to offer hugs as well, or are you more of wait and see and be the recipient?
To be honest, when I was one before who would be pushing it away and kind of hiding from it, but once I had my son, it became, yeah, I look forward to him. If he doesn't hug me, I'm going for him.
Does parenting seems to flip a switch in a lot of people's minds, doesn't it?
It definitely flipped one in mine, and I never wanted children, so it was a spectacular hard switch, like the Jurassic Park switch. You remember?
Like,
Yeah, it wasn't like a flick. It was, but it was a massive flip for me.
does the Jurassic Park parallel continue? Is he kind of, when they're toddlers, are they like the Tyrannosaurus Rex or the Velociraptors? You go like clever
Well,
boy.
it's like that, but it's with poo. He,
Well, we
yeah,
all saw Jurassic Park and Laura Dern going
yeah, that's what it's like.
elbow deep
Yeah.
into a giant mound.
Now imagine the Triceratops painting his walls with it, and then you've got a good picture.
And then yeah, that's a bit different. That's a bit different. Well, I've got good news for anybody that is a hugger out there. I've got some excellent news that they now are hiring. They're looking for volunteers in Argentina. Hug therapy. Their volunteers are stepping up to volunteer to be huggers for premature babies. This is really awesome, and this is something that I think needs to highlight. It's something that we could extend, I think, into our own country. In a hospital in Argentina for premature babies where their mothers or fathers are absent due to work. Of course, if you're a mother and you just had a premature baby, I don't know if you should be going back to work right away. But also, like, if substance abuse, incarceration, injury, death, number of things, there's volunteer huggers that will take 2-hour shifts holding babies in their arms to benefit their growth so they aren't left too long in the incubator machine. What are your thoughts on this just off the top of your head?
I've experienced it. My child was born. My son was born 3.5 weeks early, and was not well. And his mother. There was a hotel actually in the hospital, and there were nurses there that would do this particular thing, and I saw it firsthand how much it meant to have skin to skin contact for a
Mhm.
child. So I'm all for it. I think it's a great idea. There should be a program implemented everywhere.
And I wonder if not just for premature babies, I think for babies in general, and I think a lot of us need that. I always like that video where the guy stands there with the
Yeah,
free
free
hugs.
hugs.
Yeah, and it's amazing how more and more people would take the hug than not. Of course, now people scared of COVID and whatnot. I'm sure that's a little bit less apt, but I I feel like there's some. Do you think there's something to that though? There's going on. What goes on? Because physical contact, it's not in sexual nature. You're not copping a feel or grabbing someone's butt, but like just a hug for some reason seems to be on a primitive level or on a basic level seems to be like it breaks down walls. It seems to be healing in a way. What are your thoughts on that?
There is definitely an endorphin release there.
Hmm.
I've noticed that myself. I can be in a bad mood, and my boy can run up and hug me, or whoever else at that moment, depending if it's like a fight hug. Then no, it's not that great. But yeah, there's an endorphin release, and you'd feel better. I'm sure
Yeah.
when Deb, if you're allowed to hug Deb, I don't know,
Oh,
but
we we are big on hugs around here, big time. In fact, she just got back from Vegas, and it's weird because I was bacheloring it for a week while she was in Vegas, and usually when I was younger, and when we first started living together, if she'd take a trip somewhere, it was like, yoo-hoo, I'm ordering Papa John's, woo party. I think I felt that for maybe an hour, maybe a couple hours,
when it
and then
goes,
it just was like my best friend, my other half is gone. It was just like it was depressing, and it when she came back, it really felt like life came back into the house. It really felt like and we hugged when we saw each other again, and it was almost like that. And this is gonna sound super sappy. Right, save it for the Hallmark Channel, but it really did feel like the other piece of me connected back. And that's not just with Deb, but also like family members. There is something to hugs at, like you said, release endorphins, but also I think it's that reconnection. It's like touching base with your loved ones. They're real. They're there. They're not just in your head,
Mhm.
and then and losing when you and the trauma I think that sometimes might occur when you lose somebody, you no longer can hug them. And I wonder if that's something that can really rock somebody as well. That
Yeah,
loss.
there's that, and I found that I start missing it. Like, I'm a male, obviously, so you made the joke about, we're not talking about sexual, but you go through those feelings too. But there's a point where you go, man, a hug would be nice, and I
Yeah.
don't care. I mean, I don't mind. Nobody's going to attack my manhood, but I just, yeah, there's that release. There's that like I said, non-sexual release, but it's not like a coming home feeling. Like if you
Yeah.
can go home again when you get that person and you see that person, especially if you haven't seen them for a while, and they are so important to you, and you get to have that physical contact. It's a wonderful thing.
I I was gonna use an example of a bro hug. I was gonna use Top Gun as an example of a non-sexual bro hug, but then I realized I don't know, that movie is kind of be
Yeah.
interpreted different ways there. But yeah, there is that, like, in a sporting event, two guys or two girls, they score a goal or they score something, that hug, that embrace, that's like, yeah, look at us. It's a unification thing. I feel that's really cool. And so
Yeah.
we're very pro hug here at Mental Health Mondays. I think we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, I did, and like I said, I can comment on that too. The other day I was teaching an older kid, like 20,
Mhm.
basketball. He's from the autism community as well, and he gave me a big bear hug. Like he's like almost my size, and he gave me a bear hug. That it's the same way.
Yeah.
So it's nothing to do. It's just like, well, it's just a good feeling, and we're very pro hug around here.
Does it tend to be a sign from a person with autism when they seek a hug or a personal touch? That seems to be, in my experience, a huge sign of affection, because
They
they
don't like it.
normally
Yeah,
don't welcome that.
yeah.
Or
They're not. Well, it depends on what you're wearing. I'll say that, especially with the youngsters. If you're
yeah,
wearing something that feels good, like I'm wearing a shirt that's really soft right now, and this morning I got lots of touches. But yeah, it is almost universal that somebody that has autism or on the spectrum somewhere doesn't like to touch or to have that feeling process. So to get it is, I've always found it to be rewarding.
yeah, that's pretty huge. Awesome. So we're pro hugs around here. I gotta tell you about this. I don't know if you've heard of this kid. He's been a TikTok sensation. But have you heard of Rango? Rango the Tangy Tangy Kid. Have you heard of him?
Can't say that I'm a TikTok fan, so no, I've not heard of Rango, but I've seen the movie Rango, but not the gentleman.
Different than the lizard movie. This kid's named Rango, and TikTok, of course, blown up. But TikTok tends to, whatever gets popular in TikTok tends to bleed into Instagram, and then if somehow finds its way on X and YouTube and social media, and tends to spread. The term viral tends to go. But this kid has blown up from this. This kid has really become popular among the TikTok community for his Tenge Tenge dance and just kind of his I feel like contagious smile that I just want to share with everybody. This is a from Know Your Meme, but this is Rango, the Tenge Tenge Kid.
Hello, how are you? Wish a good day. Bye bye.
Ugandan TikToker Rango, aka the Tenge Tenge Kid, is taking over the app with a catchy song and a distinct big-eyed gaze, leading to millions of followers in just a few months, and a collaboration with iShowSpeed. But where did the Tenge Tenge Kid come from? Rango started posting content in May 2023. Some of his earliest posts show off his love of dance and comedy, and begin with a funny, low-angle shot of Rango with wide eyes and a big smile that's become a staple in his content. Rango's content really started taking off that November, when he posted a video where he backs into a bush while dancing and singing a song that repeats the word Tenge. The video gained over
Tenge, 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 Tenge. Kind of reminds me of the Homer Simpson meme, where Homer Simpson kind of goes into the bush a little bit. But I mean, what's cool about this kid, and I don't want to basically play Know Your Memes video, because it's kind of like ripping off their content. But they go on to talk about how he's a lot of more well-known TikTok content creators started collaborating with him, and he's bringing money to his family and to his community. They live in a very poor village, but just what I feel like is cool about this is that it shows that and the accessibility now of technology can really turn a lot of places around. Now, granted, we don't need to go into the politics or the drama of how some of these places are kept down, but I think it's kind of an inspirational story that here's a kid that doesn't even he doesn't have shoes on at the time of when he started, and he's in this very poor village, and yet just with internet access and a laptop, he's able to create a following and entertain.
Not only that, but he's you can tell he's authentic.
Yes,
and that's what works, is he's being authentic. He's actually cheerful, and that's just like, it made me smile in my head. I don't know if I did in real life, but it made me smile in my head. Just it's that big gaze, that happiness, the joy of the world. And I think you hit upon something there. The fact that he doesn't have a lot may lead to that. He doesn't have a lot of material possessions that he has to worry about or wonder if somebody's going to steal. He just gets to enjoy life and be who he wants to be.
There is something to that. I mean, I know that we might be dipping our toe into a little bit of Zen or what have you here, or something, but I almost feel like sometimes in maybe today's society we become a little bit too. What was the quote? They say, if you become obsessed with possessions, the possessions own you.
In Fight Club, what you own ends up owning you. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. There's the great Tyler Durden.
Great book, by the way.
Or was it Jack's lung or something like that? I don't know.
Medulla oblongata.
Medulla oblongata. There you go. I am Jack's medulla oblongata. But I just thought that was cheerful. Yeah, again, and you meet some people that just their smile and, like you said, genuine. And that genuine is a topic that's really been kind of like today when the full episode, my interview with Miss Courtney drops at noon. That's something we talk about, is being genuine. I feel like that that we're starving for genuine people in society. And I feel like being genuine doesn't always mean that everyone's going to agree with you, but as long as there's an established respect, I think that being genuine is being valued more than being nice. I know, my friend our friend Stephanie talked about the difference between nice and kind, and you and I have explored that topic. And I think that it's important to remember that being genuine to who you are versus, because you see it, there's people on social media that they project, or they display or present a certain persona that is not necessarily who they are. Now, granted, we all kind of play the wrestling character, or an enhanced version of ourselves at times, but there's usually, most of the time, it's usually genuine. But sometimes there are people on there that aren't genuine. They're seeking engagement, or they're seeking popularity, or they're really not genuine in their affections. And those people usually get found out pretty quick. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't know. I've seen some large accounts. We're going to discuss this later, who I believe aren't authentic. And even myself, I can include myself. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. And I'm not always authentic to who I am because of that third wall there, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's that you can say what you want to say. Like, I caught myself this morning. I was engaged in farming with some politics, and I was like, "Why am I engaged in farming? I don't care." And two, I don't care about politics all that much, but here I am doing it. And it's just, this is how it works. That's the game. There's a lot of people there that are trying to build a brand, and then you kind of fall into that trap and fall in with the wrong crowd, basically.
Do you think that there is, though, like there is a line where, like, you can still have the focus of building engagement, but genuine engagement? Is there such a thing as building genuine engagement?
I think so. Chris, our friend Chris.
Yes.
Positively Chris, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He was talking to me about that the other day, and he gave me some great advice. I'm not going to share because it's not my place. Brilliant man, by the way.
Yeah.
But,
awesome dude.
Yeah, awesome dude. And he was talking about how that's the only way you build a base that you're going to want to enjoy for times to come. And that was my problem at first. I kind of started building a little follower base that people weren't going to end up liking me in the long run. This was going to hurt in the long run. And that's kind of what I've learned this week is, I want people who appreciate me for what I do and how I do it. And that's what you want to do. Like, be authentic.
Yeah.
Be authentic, and you get authentic people who enjoy what you do. Like, you have your thing on Wednesday nights, and your wrestling podcast, I guess you could call it. And the people who come to that podcast and the people who follow you on that, they're wrestling fans.
Yeah.
If you were faking that, they wouldn't follow you.
Exactly. And that's a tough lesson for a lot of us to learn. It took me a long time to realize that if I was just my genuine self, people who like me will like the real me. Mm-hmm. And when I was much younger, like of course, when I was 28, I knew everything. I had the whole world figured out, of course. 28 years old, I had the whole world figured out until the world kicked my teeth in. And then I learned and I had experience. But like for a long time, I remember even in high school and in my 20s, I would pretend I would fake a lot of stuff. Like I would fake, I would pretend I was into stuff that others were into just because I wanted them to like me. I've told this story before. When I was 13 and I moved to Iceland, there was a group of skaters that befriended me, and we lived near each other, and we all had we had similar sense of humor. We had an affinity for Monty Python and jokes and stuff. And I was familiar with skateboarding, but I had 2 left feet. I could not ride a skateboard to save my life, but I pretended that I could skate. I just didn't have a skateboard. And so one night they all invited me to this lock-in, this overnight at this warehouse where we would skate all night. And I was petrified because I was like, I kept convincing myself, well, how hard could it be? How hard could it be? And I just went and I ate it. And I was terrible. It was obvious that I sucked. It was just completely obvious that I didn't know what I was doing. And then finally I was just so stressed and upset. And then one of the guys came over and said, Aaron, it's cool if you can't skate. We could just do something else. And it was almost like this weight lifted off my shoulders. And then we played like we pegged each other with socks, and then we did all these other games and stuff. And it was like they would still skate sometimes, and I would film stuff. I was the cameraman, but it was like they accepted me for who I was, whether I could skate or not. And that was like the first sign that I didn't need to fake anything. And I think, go ahead.
Let me ask you a question. Now, has that changed as you got older, as far as like when you go to social media?
Now it has, but again, it still took me several years to completely shake that off, because when I was working for Enterprise, I felt like there was a status I had to try to be, to so that others could respect me. And there was this business status, like, hey, everybody was Boiler Room and everybody was this, and did you go to wine tasting and all this? And that wasn't me. I'd rather go home and play PlayStation,
Yeah.
But once I really started being me and embracing the things that I was enjoying, that's when I started attracting people that I really enjoyed. Because I wouldn't even enjoy the people that I was trying to impress, because I was in this constant sense of fakeness. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. I'm going through it right now. When I came back to X from Twitter, Twitter, I had 400, 500,000 followers, and then came back and had none. And it's like, I'm going to build, have fun. And the first thing I did was get involved in a group. And by nature, I'm snarky. I am a sarcastic son of a bitch. You know this.
No.
And, it's
not you.
Surprising, right? But I got caught up in this whole be nice movement. And then I started like, I'm going to be nice to this. I'm going to be nice to this. And it's so fake for me. Like, I have niceness in me, obviously. You've seen it, and kindness.
Yeah.
But on a general daily basis, I don't believe everything needs to be nice and kind. We've discussed this before too.
Yep.
And you get caught in, and you have friends. You build these friend groups that they require it. And then you find out that they're not nice deep down. And so you feel this whole conflict of everybody's being inauthentic, and you really find out you really can't deal with it, and that's not who you are.
Well, you gotta go where you feel comfortable, and first of all, on the snarkiness thing, this is something I experience a lot, because my sense of humor, I'm half Boston, half Florida, so I'm a lethal combination of crazy. But I've got the imagine like Florida Man and Bill Burr as one person.
God,
and because my dad's side of the family, we have this thing called the Boston Hug. And what that is you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, but I've said this before, where, when you really, in New England, when you want to show somebody that you really care about them, you bust their balls.
Exactly.
You bust their chops. You pick at them, but that's actually a New England way of saying you care about them. And that gets lost on some people, and especially in the South, it's the other way. They're like, "What? Who's this jerk?" But also, when you have that sense of humor, that snarky sense of humor, it doesn't always translate well on X or on social media because
Text.
a lot gets lost in text. And thank God for emojis, because emojis you could at least kind of show where you're feeling. But even then, you have no idea you can't read the other person's emotional state. Like, it's one thing if you're hanging out and having a beer and you call somebody big nose or call somebody, like Dumbo ears or something like that. And it's in the spirit of going back and forth and joking around, and you can read their expressions and you can read the room. Whereas with social media, they may read that at a very low point in their lives. They may read that and they've got a lot of other stuff going on. So that snarkism can get misread. I've always this may sound Pollyanna, but this actually, I feel, has actually made interactions with people easier on social media. Is assume positive intent. Positive Chris says assume noble intent, but they're kind of the same thing. If you assume positive intent in your interactions with people, that they're coming to you in a positive manner, it tends to shed off a lot of misunderstandings. It doesn't mean that you're right, because there have been times where I've assumed positive intent and then I found out they were being shady.
Yeah.
Or they were being condescending. But I feel like in the regards to your, because it's really less about, it's about you and how you manage interactions with people, not just in social media, but outside of social media. If you assume positive intent, you're going to tend to have better interactions. Even if they started to come at you hostile, they may almost realize that you're not being negative, so they just kind of go along with that. I mean, does that sound too Pollyanna, or is that something you think is helpful?
It happened to me last week, and it flipped on me like that. I've also found difficulties with. I'm so snarky and pester so many people, and you know that, is that when I am trying to be serious, people automatically assume that I'm snarky.
Yeah.
So if I write something that's serious that I'm really trying not to be snarky about, people are like, "Nah, he's being snarky."
It's crying wolf kind of thing.
Yeah, there you go. So
yeah,
I don't like that reference, but yeah, we'll go with it.
Well, maybe not crying wolf, but it's like, and that is kind of one of the things about, this is sort of the same thing, but like, if you get a reputation for being a joker, for being a clown, it's the old sad clown thing. Is you get a reputation for always being the source of humor, and I think a lot of times Robin Williams is a great example of that, where when you're trying to be serious, everyone's expecting dance monkey dance.
Yeah.
And instead of taking you seriously for who you really are. And I think that can be a challenge to overcome. But I think it goes back to being genuine. If you're just being genuine and not need. No, I guess I'm stopping myself here, because I mean, we all do crave, some sort of validation or approval from our peers. I mean, we can't help it. We're human. Anybody that says they don't need validation from anybody, I don't know. I don't know if I believe that completely.
Psychopaths.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Because there is that innate, I think, drive for community. But I think it's important to be genuine. Now, with respect, I think we do need to temper respect, because I don't want to, it's a totally different thing to walk into a room and just go, "Hey, look at that loser right there," without knowing anybody. I think there's a line of respect where is that line between being niceness over honesty versus respectfully honest?
It's called adulting.
Okay.
I had an experience the other day.
All right.
I made a joke on somebody's post, and they immediately DM'd me and was like, "Dude, take it down, or I'm going to take it down because this is a post I'm sending out for a female friend of mine." And I'm like, "Okay, I get it." And this is a guy who me and him go back and forth 5 or 6 times an hour in the evenings, pestering each other about stuff and having a good time. The Boston hugs go flying, and so to
Yeah.
speak on that. But once again, I had no problem with it. And then even though he came back afterwards and was like, "Dude, I really wasn't being a jerk." You don't have to. Like, there's a line of adulting there where if you're going over something, you can be called on it. And you have to be respectful enough to go, "Okay, I went over the line there."
Yeah, but also it sounds like it was. I don't think he was holding you like it wasn't like you were lesser in his eyes. It was, hey, this specific thing, I need you to stop.
No, he came back and actually he goes, "I got the joke," but it was like 40 minutes later. Like he immediately kind of said, "Just, I'm taking it down, I'm gonna delete it, blah 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 blah." And then came back like 40 minutes later. He's like, "It took me this long to get it, to register that you were kidding." And I went, "It's no problem." And he was like, and he explained the situation to me. And then we immediately start back with our where you have problems is where you make a joke, and if you're not willing to admit, "Oh man, that was the inappropriate time to make a joke." Once you've read the room, so to speak, especially on social media, and you're like, "Oh, that didn't land. Sorry, guys."
Oh, I've never had that happen to me.
Yeah, never.
I've been on the other side too, and this is something I caution folks to. I think sometimes we need to check our own mindset and not take ourselves or others too seriously. I was teaching 4th grade, and there was a lot going on. We had a lot of behavior challenges that we were molding, and these were kids that until they got to us, and I think I've talked about this before, where we had kids that were told they were bad kids by other professionals, and then they get to us and we're starting to actually get to know them and build value within them. And there was a lot of growth and self-understanding with these kids, and there was so much going on, but there was also a lot of lashing out. There was a lot of testing boundaries. And I had one student in particular who had some real emotional problems and was really kind of figuring out what's going on and within their lives, and would sometimes come in and vandalize things in the room when I wasn't around, or I was stealing some of the candies out of the reward dish, and there was a number of things going on. And this person would come in before school in the morning, or would sneak in after school when no one was paying attention, because they were usually waiting for something or waiting for something else, and would do stuff in the room. So one morning, getting close to the holidays, I walk in, and written on my my dry erase easel is, you sit on a throne of lies. And immediately, of course, I hadn't had any coffee, and I'm just like, somebody came in, somebody's being, and not only this, I gotta preface this, there was not just the kid stuff, there was some unnecessary drama between grade levels and fellow faculty. There was some cliquish kind of talk behind your back groups of people that there was a lot of drama, unnecessary drama, and in the whole situation. So I go to the security desk, and I'm like, somebody wrote this thing, and I'm upset, and I'm just, I'm not happy about it. I wanted to watch the camera. And long story short, too late, but long story short, it turns out it's one of my colleagues from 1st grade who was making an Elf reference from the movie Elf, which, as soon as I realized it was her, I got the reference. I felt so foolish. I felt like such an idiot. I was like, I felt so like the fact that I went to the security desk and got security involved with this whole thing, and I was all grumpy about it. And then I realized, oh, no, it was such, and of course I'm laughing. Of course, I feel like such an idiot. And the reason I illustrate this story is I think that's something we have to caution ourselves from too, is sometimes I think we tend to read the worst in a situation and not realize where the other person's coming from. That's where I think in situations where, like with your friend there, he sent you that he didn't get the joke right away, but he did send you the DM to say, hey, I'm trying to do this. Can you please take it down? And to me, that at least, if you can at least address each other respectfully, I think that goes a long way.
Exactly. And Creighton, great story, by the way. I like how at the end of the 15-minute story, you're like, I'm not going to make it a long story. But
Too late.
Too late.
Right?
But yeah, it's people like to say boundaries and stuff of that nature, but I think everybody just on a level needs to take things less seriously.
Mhm.
I watched a friend the other day, another person who has a huge account, make a comment, and it's hilarious comment if you think about it. He was like, who wins the SEC championship is more important than who wins the presidential election, which was a funny joke.
Yeah.
I mean, that was intended as a joke, and he got blocked by like 74 people and like quick. Like he started posting on how he got blocked people. I was like, man, people are just so serious about everything. Things can be joked about.
And I think even on stuff that isn't joked about, how absolute people are. I feel like we've got to really be careful. For one, we've got to realize that we're roughly 90% of us all see things we agree on 90% of the things in life, I think, and it tends to be that 10% somehow that we focus on. And I'm pulling numbers out of my butt, just because whatever. But I feel like we have a lot more in common than we do different, but it seems like we focus on those differences. And if you're not willing to have that nuanced discussion where, because when you discuss something, like if you feel a certain way, one, when you form your identity around an ideal, then if in order for you to change your idea, if based on new information, it's changing who you are.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be able to separate, just like the scientific method. Your hypothesis can't be you. You've got to separate yourself from your hypothesis so that if your data comes out differently, to the contrary, you can, as a good scientist, say your hypothesis is wrong. I think that's the same with any issue. But what I have a problem with is whether you agree or disagree. Like if somebody makes a statement that they believe, and it could be, I'm going to use the scientific example, but this could be politics, religion, opinion about pizza, whatever. But I had a student when we were doing a magnet experiment, and we had these 3 magnets, and they each had a different color sticker. One was red, one was blue, one was green. And they had to write a hypothesis based off a question they had. And the student, he said, I believe that the red magnet is stronger than the other 2. Is stronger. That was his hypothesis. And other kids kind of heckled him. They're like, no, all the magnets are all the same. That's ridiculous, stupid. And I said, no, that's his hypothesis. We're going to roll with that. And we roll with it because what we ended up doing was proving that was not the case. We proved that all 3 magnets had the same strength. And the important part was the conclusion is where you become a good scientist or not. Now, I use that as a parallel because you need to, what happens with a lot of people is they make up their mind before they really look at any data. And then when somebody presents something else, instead of discussing the issue to either learn more from their perspective or steelman their belief, people just attack the person. I mean, you've experienced the onslaught of DMs when if you would make a statement about something, and then you get this onslaught of people just attacking you or making assumptions about something you said, rather than having a nuanced discussion. Hey, this is how I feel. This is why I feel this way. Going back and forth. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's even worse. Excuse me. When you can come back and present data, and then they still stare at you and still get angry over a comment or over something you made when you can back it up with data. Like the scientific method has already been done, and you can go, this is cold hard facts, and you question them and go, this happened to me last week. We were talking about this before. This is what happened. And then the next day, this is what happened about me writing what happened. These are the numbers. And then somebody going, I don't care. I'm not arguing the validity of what you're saying, quote unquote. I'm saying you still shouldn't say it. So
why
even
shouldn't
when
you say it?
because it doesn't fit their narrative. It doesn't matter what your narrative is anymore. It doesn't fit theirs. It doesn't matter what the truth is anymore. If we're being honest, we're getting a little off track here, but I don't think it matters what the truth is anymore. It matters how a person feeling. I posted this video last week, and I know you liked it, but there was one where they were like, feelings matter more than facts, and that's true. It's funny because it's true now, because everybody believes their feelings matter more than facts now.
Yeah, and I don't. I mean,
I'm
not disagreeing with you that that's what seems to be common right now, but like to me, it bothers. Like when I'm teaching writing, we do peer reviews when I'm teaching my kids writing. We'll have them a small group. I'll have 6 kids at my desk, and this is after they've written their rough draft, and they're actually beyond their rough draft. It's a legible draft that they have. And they swap papers and read each other's stories for content. They're not reading for punctuation or grammar. They're just reading for the story. And we practice what I call respectfully honest feedback. And the reason I highlight the words both respectful and honest is you need to be honest with how you feel. Don't just go, it's good, or I liked it, or I didn't like it. You got to be specific with your details, but you got to be honest about it. If you didn't like something, you got to be able to tell them. If you did like something, tell them you like that. If you felt like you didn't understand something, ask them. But on the flip side is respectful. And that was another struggle with especially some of my higher level thinkers is understanding how to be respectful in your criticism. Because we had a couple of kids that would say, that's terrible, or they would say, they would say, and we would always try to begin the prefaces, we all want to become better writers. And I think that it doesn't often, but it should translate to society in general. We all want to become better people. And I think, unfortunately, there's some folks that a lot of times, I think there's some folks that they want to argue not to educate others, but to make themselves feel better about their belief. They don't want to risk having to alter what they believe. They'd rather attack. And I think that's a mistake. I think there's a way you can be respectful, but also honest and speak the truth too. Or are we beyond that at this point?
Only thing I can, is my life experiences, what I've experienced is the only way I can answer that. But last week I wrote an article and we discussed this, and I'm going to go ahead and get into it quickly. And immediately the article, I'm going to kind of answer your question and go dance around it. Immediately the article was accepted well. First 2,000 reads were I got no negative feedback, which I was expecting a backlash. And then this bothered me. This was worse than getting. Of course, I got the DMs later that were the ones we're speaking of right now. That
colorful,
were colorful, yeah. And but what hurt me on that one, and where I started losing my train of thought, like you're talking about now, where I started losing my own character, was there was one woman or one person who stepped in, and who has a very large account, and she made a negative comment. She was the first negative comment. And when she made that comment, because her account was so large, it's a huge account, on X there, I got messages saying that, okay, I'm taking down my repost. This thing was reposted 20 or 30 times, and now it's down to 8. They're like, I'm taking it down. And it started to turn in my head, okay, you liked this, you reposted it, you quoted it, you thought it was great, and then because someone else didn't, and you don't want to lose that friendship and possibly that follower base.
Mm.
You didn't have the honor to hold what you said. That bothered me. But then again, you got to give people like that a break too, because they're trying to build their brand on X.
Yeah.
This is a business here. So, but as far as like the absolute, are we done as a society? If you saw my DMs over that, everywhere from Buddhism to Zoroastrian, I had every religion in my DMs, and every one of them except for one were extremely supportive. I was really surprised at how many people came up with some religious abuse and started talking to me about that. That's a topic we could cover one day. That was just amazing. I mean, the numbers of that. But there were 7 or 8 that looked they had gotten together and come up with a phrase to tell me. And so I wrote an article the next day and took it down immediately. We discussed that. I don't think there's a point in going over that. Hello, Courtney.
Yep.
But there's no point in going over. But to answer your question, I think we're not past that face to face. We're not past that situation face to face. But in the virtual world, in the social media world, I think we are past that point, because everybody's going to. It's really is an every man for themselves on social media until you make your circle what it needs to be. About that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I value the people I interact with. Just a handful. I mean, you already saw my buddy Brian Raz. He's from our group at Dynamite Download. This is an awesome dude. Follow him. Check out his. He does some really awesome videos. Some kind of like, I don't want to say hypnotrance, but kind of like some good background music. Like if you're working and you want to just kind of have a beat going, it's great for writers. You know, I'll listen to sometimes. I'll put some of his stuff on just to kind of while I'm working on something. And then of course our guest at the top of the hour for the new full episode, for episode 48, Courtney Holland's going to be joining me on when that episode drops here at the top of the hour. Courtney is awesome too, and Courtney is another person that I feel is a great example of being genuine. Both Brian, the Raz, and Courtney, and it's an example of that. And this is going to sound maybe a little bit Pollyanna or naive, but I'd rather value 100 people I enjoy interacting with than to have 1 million people that just don't care or I barely interact with. Like, I value, and this was something that Courtney and I talk about too, as far like feedback. Like, I would value your feedback, Stephanie, Positive, Chris, Ben, Courtney Holland, Brian, you know, so many. I would value their feedback more than a bunch of random people that I got to follow because of a follow train or because I was in the right Twitter space at the right time or something, you know. And we're not always going to agree, on things. Lord knows, Courtney and I don't always agree on wrestling stuff, but the thing is, this is it. I wish we could get to that point, but I feel like there is that dopamine drive to get as many likes and as many engagements as possible. And that's unfortunate.
It really is. But then again, it's a blessing, because last week I learned a lesson that I didn't, like I said, I had a huge account before, but that account was all based on I covered several particular sports teams and their fans followed me.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't they were following it for me. They were following it because I got, information they want.
Yeah. And that's a little different because that's more utility. Yeah.
So when I came to this account, I'm like, I tried to build something instead of letting it build. And that's what Chris told me. He's like, you got to let it be organic.
Yes.
Because if you try to force it, then you're really going to, it's like, I'm not going to use the poo reference there, but if you try to force it, you end up surrounded by a bunch of sycophants who either echo chamber you or want to fight you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so
neither is helpful or will allow you to grow.
Yeah. And now I have people there's a lot of people on my friends list. I don't answer the DMs, but like yours, if I see a DM from you, how fast I answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go, Courtney.
Yep.
Just talking and speaking the truth right there. But like Stephanie knows if she messages me, no matter how many problems we have, or if we have a problem at all, I'm answering that message because I value her as a human being.
Yes,
and that's what I learned last week, is that there are people. I wrote something about it, that the whole phrase that when the elevator goes up your life, some people have to get off. And I rephrased it, and I was like, sometimes you shouldn't let some of those people on the elevator in the first place. And that was a poor choice of mine, and it was a lesson learned in that experience. And not that necessarily the bad people. It's just there's people that I don't want to hear exactly what repeated back to me what I think. I don't want everybody to agree with me, but I want everybody around me to be able to have joy and enjoy themselves and be smart.
Yeah.
And I want to hear the truth from people. So, I mean, it's nice to be this small in my account, lost my blue check mark for a little bit. And it's nice to be smart and to be able to build organically. And I think I don't really care. That's what I was saying. I got 300, I don't know how many followers I got now, but I don't care. It could be 2,000, it could be 1, as long as it's somebody who's real.
I've been steady under 1,800 for a long time, but to me, it's I get more out of a comment from somebody that watched a video of mine on YouTube, or a thoughtful reply to something I posted, rather than something going viral. I mean, I interviewed Josh Robert Thompson from the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, and his whole thing about Icarus, that video went viral, and that's great, but that's an outlier. That's not what I'm striving for. What means more to me is seeing those interactions from like a Bobby Battio or somebody, they were, hey, I got value out of this video. This, even if it's one person saying, hey, this made my day. And speaking of building value, let's lighten the mood a little bit here. And even though this has got positive Chris is involved in this video, I love this. So this really lightens the mood. It's time for our DMs and emails. This is the Japanese kawaii intro. Yes, that is Super Aaron Mindrunner flying through the anime universe here.
That's a little like Einstein.
A little. Hey, it's not, think like Einstein, look like Einstein. We've got 3 emails I selected. I handpicked from our. Actually, I think they're all DMs this time.
There were hundreds.
Yeah, so I picked 3. I'll give you the topics here. We've got, let me share the screen, and I'll let you pick, and I think we'll have time for maybe at least one, and I'll let you decide.
We'll hurry, yeah.
I got Marriage List BS, No One Likes Me, or Busy Barista. Which one do you want to...
Let's go with 2, No One Likes Me, because I'm feeling that one.
All right, let's go to that one, but let's go to... Okay, here we go. All right, I'm going to read this.
Did I write this?
I don't know. This is from Sussy Baka. Of course, the names have been changed to protect the innocent. We always will change your names or handles to protect who you are. But I'm going to read this just like Steve Buscemi saying, hello, fellow kids. Bruh, I'm low-key fed up or in. I think that's right now. Like, no one seems to vibe with my sarcastic humor. Interesting. And I'm just out there trying to keep it real, you feel? Every time I crack a joke or speak some truth, it's like I'm always stepping on someone's toes and making them sus. No cap. Even on socials, I'll be making moves to make friends, but then I end up making them salty with my posts. It's making me wonder if I'm the problem, Do you ever feel this way, or is it just me missing the mark big time? Holla back, fam. Peace, Sussy Baka.
Good old Sussy.
Well, what do you got for Sussy Baka?
Hell, we just covered this for quite a few minutes, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
We really just I picked that one because we can get through it pretty quick. Sussy, my advice to you is to keep being you, and you'll find people who are like you and end up liking you. Either that, or you're really, really bad at sarcastic humor. It's one of those 2, man. There's no in between.
Yeah, I think this really does go back to the be genuine. I mean, if Peace, Sussy Baka, if you really talk like this and that's really you, then go no cap.
Do it.
Go keep it real, yo.
Yeah.
And holla back, fam, and you'll find your peeps that are clicking with you, dig?
Even Jesse Pinkman found Walter.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. All right, let's take another. We got time for another one. Let's do unlistable. Excuse me. Hello, guys. I'm feeling incredibly upset and frustrated because my new husband just gave me a list of things he thinks I need to change about myself. Feels like a punch in the gut, and I can't help but question if I made a mistake marrying him. I'm so angry and hurt by his actions, and I'm not sure how to move forward from here. I thought marriage was about love, acceptance, and support, but it feels like anything but that. Should I leave him? Unlistable. Your thoughts right off the top of your head.
Man, I'm the wrong person for this. I've been divorced more times. No, that the hell makes a list? You're a new wife. Here, have a list of things I find wrong with you after I married you. Shouldn't that be in the testing process before you get married?
Yeah, I think you'd want to give that list before the I do's, not after.
Dude, what? Okay, for the unlistable here. If he doesn't love you as you are, and granted, we don't know what type of list he may be going. Hey, get off heroin. We don't know.
Okay, then
so
fair.
But assuming that these are not nefarious things, they're like, she needs to dress differently or something now that she's married. Something.
Yeah, stop.
It sounds very controlling.
Yeah,
it sounds very controlling, and I'm a big proponent. Obviously, for some reason, I'm not sure why I'm leaving. God, that's bad advice. But I'll write the check and go. That's a horrible thing to do to somebody, is to get to that point where you kind of have them, because marriage is a bit of a trap. It really is.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a negative way. You're supposed to take that seriously and for life, although I didn't have it. But then after that fact, to come up and say, well, I need you to change these things in order to keep my love. Yeah, that's a no-go. You have a conversation with the guy and you're like, this list can be cooked and eaten, but other than that, I got a list for you too, buddy.
I can tell you where to stick that list, probably. Yeah, I get the feeling that this is a young couple, because, and this sounds to me like you may have needed to really have some more heart-to-heart discussions before this. And I'm not putting this on unlistable because this is a messed up thing for a guy to do to his wife, right? Immediately after. I'm sure the honeymoon was fun, but like, I think that this might be, and again, I don't know about culture differences. I don't know if there's like there could be some culture differences.
Generational,
but I feel like this is indicative of how, marriage is a solid commitment. It's a big time commitment when you make that. You can't just make that it's not the next step of going steady. It's a serious, it's like, there's financial, there's so much involved, but you really need to have these kind of discussions, and really not just your feelings, but really try to mine and get into the thought process of your future spouse before you say I do. Because what's happened here is they're expecting you to change unreasonably, perhaps, and then you're finding out this person isn't who they weren't upfront with you because they were holding back some issues they had with you and suddenly sprung this on you. What else are they holding back from you?
Either way, things aren't going to go well for this gentleman. I can tell you that right now.
No,
there is no happy way this goes.
No, I think this is going to be. I don't see that. I honestly don't see this. I don't see this ending in bliss at all.
Or starting in bliss.
Well, we thank you so much for tuning in to Mental Health Mondays Live. Matthew, thank you for being my co-pilot today. I'd love to have you back again another time. And everybody, if they can find you on X, if you want to have a honest discussion, go to @mindful_legacy on X. And but truly, Matthew, I'm honored to know you and call you friend. And I hope you find more interactions, more positive interactions on X. And For everybody, more than a fortune cookie advice, I think we're both just going to say be genuine. Check out right now, it's dropping right now, the episode 48 of Mental Health Mondays. Any final thoughts, Matthew, before we end the stream?
If it's much easier to stay out than it is to get out. That's all I'm going to leave it with.
There you go. All right, everybody, I'm Mindrunner. Please like, share, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff, and keep the conversation going and be genuine, because you'll attract the people that want to be friends with you for you. Have a great week, and let us know what you thought. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.